everyone, it's Alyssa and this is Always Cinema Chic, the place that encourages you to go out, get dressed up, and watch a movie. So today I am reviewing Phantom Thread, and that stars Daniel Day-Lewis, Vicky Krieps, and Lesley Manville, and that is directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, who has always been one of my favorite directors, so I was really so excited to watch this film. Now, I walked into the movie really sad that this was going to be Daniel Day-Lewis's last film. He's one of my favorite actors. I remember him throughout my whole life. I loved Last of the Mohicans and The Age of Innocence and The Crucible. These are all movies that I grew up with, and the idea of him, you know, not performing anymore is just, it's so sad to me. But I left the movie with this kind of smile on my face because it really was the perfect last film for Daniel Day-Lewis to make. It was totally unexpected for me. I mean, I thought this was going to be a traditional period piece movie, which was very stupid of me because Paul Thomas Anderson would never do something like that, but the trailers felt very traditional. And then once I got into the film, I realized, okay, I'm walking into something that is very wryly sardonic. It's very dark. You have this perfect balance of sort of twisted family drama and this very dark humor, but you also have a love story that's beautiful and disturbing and just in so many ways the opposite of what I expected in the best possible way. And this is a very slow and very subtle film, but I love just being enveloped in the world that Paul Thomas Anderson created here. So the film's about the House of Woodcock, a fashion designer in the 1950s who could not be more meticulous and could not be more controlling. I mean, this is a man who only ever gets exactly what he wants. And if any piece of his routine is moved out of place, then there will be hell to pay. I mean, this is a man who goes through women and discards them whenever he pleases. Well, he doesn't exactly discard them. He gets his sister Cyril, who's played by Lesley Manville, to get rid of them when he's done with them, and she loves her job and doing exactly what he wants, and simultaneously kind of controlling her brother as well. And you know, all of that plays out well and good until Alma comes along and she decides that she's not going to play by the house rules. She's going to show Woodcock that she is an actual person, and she's just not going to slide into a corner and become, you know, this sort of fake idea of a woman that he so desperately wants to create. And what happens is a real struggle for power between the three characters and who's in charge, and that power shifts continuously throughout the film. And you know, it could appear to be quite melodramatic. Like, if I were to tell you the entire plot of the film, which of course I would never do, you would think, oh my god, this feels so absurd, something like this would never happen, like what, this seems like a ridiculous movie. But when you are in it and you're watching it, you just really buy into this world that Anderson's created. So Paul Thomas Anderson really lets the atmosphere wash over you and you're part of it. Every shot seems meticulously crafted, just as Mr. Woodcock would like it. He utilizes just so many different shots to always keep the film interesting, and he really waits for those moments where he wants you to get a close-up of the character's face. Oftentimes we just get a medium shot or a long shot of the house and we feel like we are really becoming part of that world, and there's this real sense of isolation that Anderson, you know, creates in the film, because this is the place where Mr. Woodcock works, where he lives, so everything is about this house, and the house really does become a character in the film. And at times I really was reminded of Darren Aronofsky's Mother. I mean, the connection might not be there on first glance, but once you watch these two films, there really are a lot of correlations. So the idea of you know, the house almost taking on a personality in the film, and the concept of the artist and his connection to his creation, and how he almost values that connection to his creation better than actual relationships within his life. But what I loved is that Alma is the opposite of Mother, and she will not allow him to simply do whatever he wants to do and walk all over her. And she's really such a strong, perfect counterpoint to that character. And you know, this is a moment to say that Paul Thomas Anderson definitely deserves the nomination for Best Director. He, you know, sort of just let it seemingly just unfolds in front of you, and it's very natural feeling, and you feel like you're there, and every shot is just absolutely gorgeous. So, you know, while he was not mentioned as one of those people that would have gotten the nomination, he wasn't guaranteed, he most certainly deserves the nomination for Best Director here. And I will also say that the score in this film is phenomenal. It takes you into this very, I don't want to say aggressive world, but very fast-paced world that they're in, and the score really enhanced the film for me. And this is the same person who has worked with Paul Thomas Anderson before, so he really makes distinctive pieces for him, and it added so much to the film. But the thing that just takes over the whole film are the performances, and all three leads are just spectacular in this film. So these actors bring the perfect balance to each other. No one character is just one thing or another. These are multi-dimensional human beings who are given so much complexity and imperfection from each of the actors. Lesley Manville is simply brilliant at saying one thing and then meaning another. She is the epitome of if looks could kill, and the relationship that she has with her brother is questionable at best. And I really so enjoyed seeing that relationship between the brother and the sister. And these two characters, even though they're older, probably in their early 50s, mid-50s, they have not grown or matured in any way during their life. And of course you do get backstory to that, but they were just such controlling and static characters in the beginning. And of course all of that changes once Alma comes into the picture. And I will say that the Academy and all of the major awards really made a mistake, I feel, by not nominating Vicky Krieps. She is phenomenal in this film. She comes across at first as being this very quiet and timid character. It feels like you could just blow her right over and she would fall and she would crack. But as the film goes on, oh my God, you see this kind of strength sort of build up within the character, and she does some rather interesting things in the film that you certainly would not predict from watching her in the beginning. And so she had such range and emotion and depth, and she really had so many different emotions going on at the same time. And the look in her eyes, you would just need to look at her face for a second to understand everything about her. So I feel like she is such an underrated actress in this film. I'm shocked that she did not get nominated, because I could certainly think of a couple of women who did get nominated who I think Vicky Krieps did a much better job than them, and she had such a complex character to work with. But that brings me to Daniel Day-Lewis, who of course deserves the nomination for Best Actor. He is just magnificent in this film, and so subtle, and you feel like you understand everything that's going on within this particular character. Woodcock is the epitome of what a brilliant artist must be. He's controlling, calculating, and methodical, and he also allows himself to be completely vulnerable for small bits of time so that he allows his creativity to open up. but he doesn't allow himself to be open for too long, or else he would never be able to get anything done. He couldn't create these gorgeous dresses in such short periods of time. And now, of course, Daniel Day-Lewis is quite serious in the film, and obviously he takes the character to heart, but what I loved most about the performance were these little cheeky moments that he had. It was actually funny, and I don't usually think of Daniel Day-Lewis being funny, but yet he was at points in the film, and really he and Krieps played off of each other so well that by the time you got to the end of the film, I was kind of like giddy with happiness over what was going on. It was so much fun, and fun wasn't an adjective that I was thinking I would use to describe this movie. So I was surprised in so many ways with what this relationship was, because the relationships here are all about control, attention, and a balance of power, which is exactly what a man like Woodcock needs to be his best creative self. And as I was watching the film, I couldn't help but think that this was Daniel Day-Lewis's and Paul Thomas Anderson's meditation on what it's like to be an artist. There were so many, you know, references on how it kind of takes a toll, and how maybe you become something other, a person that's different from who you started with when you are creating something. And you know, I know that Paul Thomas Anderson has said that, you know, Lewis has made him a much better director now that they've done these two films together. And it made me wonder if you know, if Daniel Day-Lewis said this was going to be his last film, because it might give you some insight into why Daniel Day-Lewis feels like he needs to retire right now. But I really cannot recommend this film enough. It was absolutely gorgeous. I loved so much of this. So now for the grades. In terms of film and artistry, I would give Phantom Thread an A. I thought this was just such a fun film, which is not something I was thinking that I was going to say with this. And the three leads are just spectacular in this. They are unstoppable, really, and I do think all three of them should have gotten nominations for the acting in this film. They all certainly do deserve it, but this is also one of the most beautiful films that you're going to see all year. The clothes, everything, it's just gorgeous. The score is gorgeous. Yes, at times it might be a little bit slow, but that's what a Paul Thomas Anderson movie is like usually. It usually can, you know, feel a bit slower at times. And in terms of watchability, I would give Phantom Thread an A. This was so much more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be. Of course, I thought it was going to be a well-made film, and I thought I was going to really appreciate it, but I didn't realize quite how much I was going to enjoy it. And that, once again, goes to the story. And, you know, Paul Thomas Anderson, he wrote this, and he is his own director of photography, and he's the director, so he has such a clear vision. And I would not normally think a person should have that much control, because you kind of want to work with other people, but yeah, maybe he does really well on his own. And I know that working with Daniel Day-Lewis probably only improved him and upped his game. But this is definitely one of the best films that I saw that came out from 2017, and it deserves all of the nominations that it's been getting. So I hope that you guys enjoy this film as well. If you have seen it, please let me know in the comments down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, if you like the video, and remember, it is always in fashion to go out, get dressed up, and make it a cinema chic night. Bye everyone.